Hi, this is Ralph Brandt from the Fireside. I'm going to try to keep from rocking too much, but it's kind of a nice sensation. I'm going to talk about something that Shannon discussed yesterday in the sermon. It's called punching the clock. You know, when you hit quitting time and you're on a job that's by the hour, you go out and you stick the card in the clock and you say, ka-ching, I'm going home. I don't need to worry about this job. I don't need to worry about what's going on. I'm off the clock. The company doesn't own my time anymore. And a lot of Christians are that way. They leave church on Sunday morning, and on the way out, they ka-ching, they punch the clock. And I'm talking about this, and I'm covering a lot of what Shannon did. But I'm going to talk about something else. From February of February of 1965 until October of 1967, I punched the clock. I was at Caterpillar. I punched the clock. Ka-ching, and I went home. But at the time, I was studying at home. But even then, that really wasn't, quote, work, because I wasn't being paid for it. And then in October of 1967, they put me on something called salary. And when you're on salary, you don't go out at night and ka-ching, punch the clock. You're still on the clock. Now, for a while, that didn't mean a whole lot. I did do some work in the evenings and things like that for a little while. Then I started doing things like making trips and stuff like that, and suddenly the clock didn't mean anything. I was on night call. If something went wrong, I got the call. If I could fix it by telling them something over the phone, that's great. I could roll over and go back to sleep. Many times it was pull on my pants and shirt, get in the car, and drive across town. And there was no ka-ching, punching the clock. I had a boss that expected me to be there the next morning, even if I was in for 4 hours in the middle of the night. Now, personally, I've supervised people who were on salary and on call. If they put in 4 hours over in the middle of the night, and they get in at 10 or 11 or even 12 the next morning instead of 8, I should have enough confidence in them to know that they put in their time. They more than put in their time. And I worked that system from October of 67 until into the end of February 2013, all but a few months, I was on night call. I'm guessing that the total time that I was not on night call was probably close to a year. In the later years, I could sometimes log on a computer and fix something. Remember a Sunday afternoon sitting here in this room, watching TV with my son, who was also at the time on the same contract and on salary? And we got a phone call and something was broke. And I started it because, believe it or not, I was the junior of the group. I was on the maintenance group, he was on the design group. I got to a rough place. I looked over at him sitting next to me and I said, "Get your laptop. You're on call." And it was kind of humorous, but we both sat there and worked on the problem. Funny part about it was a day later, Monday, our bosses got a call from the users who were impacted saying, "Can't believe those two guys," but we were on call. Now, why did I spend these couple of minutes on that? Let me talk about being on call. In God's time, when you commit yourself to Christ, You are not punching the clock. You are on call. 7 by 24. 365. Now, it may only be wake you up in the middle of the night to pray. It may only be to interrupt your breakfast at a restaurant to smile at somebody and encourage them. Could also be like a few of the ones that I've done, where it was a person sitting in our living room at 2 o'clock in the morning who just needed help and guidance. But we're not on the clock. There is no ka-ching. We've punched out. And if we are committed to Christ, if we are committed to the work of the Lord, there is no punching out. There is no punching out. You're there. The Apostle Paul said, be instant in season and out of season. Means be ready to do whatever needs to be done. And that's the message that I have seen from my own. In 2 realms, I've worked this way. But it isn't unique to them. I'm fire police. The pager goes off. The food on the stove gets turned off and we go out the door. And I've only been doing it for about 11 years. Gosh, the fire police captain that I run with just passed 57 years. Now his first, I don't know how many of that were on what we jokingly refer to as the dark side, the fire, and the rest of it has been on fire police. And his experience, his exposure, his knowledge is still being used. It's being used to mentor a nearly 80-year-old guy who's been on the street for 11 years and still learning. And this is a message to the church. What my captain does in the fire service is no different than what is expected of us in God's service. And I will tell you this, that captain does some of the others too. It ain't all just the fire company. I don't know how deep he is, but I got some ideas, and it's deeper than what most would think. Sometimes I don't share things that I know because I don't know that I have the right to share them. But I will tell you this. I have respect for him in both realms because I see what kind of a person he is. Is he the only one? No. I could give you names of probably 7, 8, 9 others that I work with. There's a lot of them I don't know well enough to say yes or no. But every time I bump into another one, it almost always opens that door. So I'm thinking that there's more than what I know, a lot more than what I know. And it's not just in the West Manchester group that I run with. I see them in other areas. I run with a search and rescue team and some awesome people. This is what we have. But people who serve, serve. People who don't punch the clock, who don't know what the clock means, serve. There's a song from the old churches, keep on the firing line. And one of them, it says, God will only use a soldier he can trust. There are many dangers that we all must face. If we die of fighting, it's no disgrace. And most people look at that like the story of Rachel at Columbine, who died professing her faith. But there are many who die by living their faith, She didn't have that opportunity, and I'm not belittling that. But there are many who die to self, and by doing that, live their faith. Those guys I work with at the fire company die to self to put in the time for training, for calls. And I'm awed by them. I can get emotional looking at guys and gals. And by the way, there's a significant cadre of females in that group. And when I use the word guys, try to understand that it's all of them. I work with them, and I see them, and I see what I would have called hardened veterans coming back from a call when things have not gone bad, and you can tell that they care. It's an impact. And that's what it should be in the church. We should not be looking at that brother or sister who's erring a little bit in that way. We should be looking at what we can do to help them. This isn't exactly what I recorded. I recorded one and the camera failed out on me. And I'm now re-recording it, and it's taken a slightly different direction. But God is good. He is faithful. And we need to remember that we're playing with lives. This is Ralph Brandt from the Fireside.